Thank you for joining me for episode 15 of my lunch break. If you're new, welcome. I haven't seen anything interesting at all today. Oh, who am I kidding? When you research this topic, your mind is blown every day. I've been meaning to cover the Cologne Cathedral for a while now. It has to be one of the most incredible things in the world, if not the most incredible. I just have so many questions to ask about it, so let's get into it. Let's kind of go over the basic narrative a little here, and then we can dissect it together. They began building this in the year of 1248 in Germany. They say that when they began construction, the exact site that they were supposedly going to build this cathedral was already taken by something. Yeah, that something was this cathedral. Just reading this paragraph right here has to get everyone questioning the narrative. When I read this, remember to keep my video about the fires destroying all of the old world buildings in your mind. The second church, called the Old Cathedral, was completed in 818. It was destroyed by fire on the 30th of April in 1248. During demolition work to prepare for a new cathedral. So it was destroyed by a fire while trying to destroy the building to build a new building? This is the exact thing we're talking about. Destroying old world buildings with a great fire to replace it with something new. Let's remember that this story is most likely not true. But the fact that they're basically admitting the truth about what they did to the buildings within this story is for sure worth noting. It's basically an admission of what they do, and just putting it right out there in this story. Remember, there literally wasn't a timeline here. They could say anything they want. And for this story, they decide to say this took hundreds of years to build, because they have time to burn. They can say, oh yeah, this was started 1,000 years ago and wasn't finished until 1800s. For anyone who's been watching my previous episodes, you'll fully understand what I mean about finishing projects in the 1800s. 1800s is when the timeline for our group of people began, in my opinion. And it looks like in a few other people's opinion as well. There have been previous civilizations. As I always like to say, you are free to think whatever you like, and that is perfectly okay. The completion of Germany's largest cathedral was celebrated as a national event on the 14th of August in 1880, 632 years after the construction had begun. This is a complete joke. They didn't finish it in 1780, 1680, 1980. No, they finished the most incredible cathedral after 632 years. In 1880. No, this was made by a previous civilization, not in our fabricated timeline. This thing is 516 feet tall. Let's dive back into this narrative here. They say this was the tallest building in the whole world for only 4 years. So for 632 years they build this thing. Finally finish it in 1880. Now only 4 years later something else tops it? What tops it? The Washington Monument. Can we just go take a look at that for a second? This obelisk is now the tallest thing in the world in 1884. Robert Mills draws this thing up in 1845. The same guy who draws up Greco-Roman style treasury buildings, Greco-Roman style patent office buildings, Greco-Roman style Smithsonian art museums, and of course Greco-Roman style national portrait galleries. Come on! Do we really believe this guy designed these buildings and had them all constructed? Or is it more plausible that this Robert Mills guy is a fictional character that they can plug into these stories to explain away 5 to 10 buildings that come from the old world? I know which answer I'm going with. Oh, I'm sure Robert was a nice guy and was really just great at his job and figured out how to get these materials there and was one of a kind. Give me a break. Okay. Now that we definitely know that the obelisk was from the old world, let's get back to the Cologne Cathedral. Mostly because I like looking at it and wondering who the heck built this. It has so much detail. It is clearly not built in the 1200s, the 1300s, the 1400s, 15, 16, 17, 18, 1900s, or present day. But if you ask any historian, they will tell you the 1800s got the job done. Those 1800s people. They just had it down. They knew how to do things the right way. They worked harder than us and just figured it out. This narrative and excuse is just insane at this point. Which company was hired for 632 years? Who actually believes this took 632 years? whoever built this did not take 6.5 centuries. They got the job done and did it well. They knew what they were doing. They had technology to get it done. They didn't make a single flaw. It stands before us today, and it will stand there forever, as long as they don't knock it down on purpose. Good old Robert Mills, what a guy. Okay, where should we go next? I think today I'll cover something that someone has commented and asked about. Let's go to London and check out the Crystal Palace. Okay, so right off the bat, we have something interesting. This was built in 1851 and destroyed in 1936. The architect's name is Joseph Paxton. Okay, this has to be the most ridiculous story I've ever read in my whole life. This tops them all. Here we go. I'm not making this up. On the evening of the 30th of November in 1936, Buckland was walking his dog near the palace with his daughter, Crystal, named after the building, which, of course, they just needed to throw in there, when they noticed a red glow within it. Buckland went inside. He found 2 of his employees fighting a small office fire that had started after an explosion in the women's cloakroom. Realizing that it was a serious fire, they called the fire department. Although 89 fire engines and 400 firemen arrived, they were unable to extinguish it. Within hours, the palace was destroyed. Okay, so this story never happened. There was no dog walker, no crystal, none of this. It's fake. It's not real, and they purposely burnt it down because it was an old world building. Do we understand that? I know I haven't covered the World's Fairs fully yet, but I believe that they had World's Fairs to bring brand new people to these abandoned cities, and then use it as an excuse to tear down the incredible architecture. Now, this building was supposedly built for the Crystal Palace's World Fair. Not to mention that they built this place in 8 months? How did they do that? In 1851? These people just threw this thing up in 8 months? A 1 million square foot palace? Right here in the narrative, it states that 2,000 men built this. Who are these 2,000 men? Is it exactly 2,000? Which company do they work for? Were they prisoners like most stories say? What is going on here? This is turning into a complete embarrassment for the narrative. Exactly 2,000 men can find a way to make Joseph Paxton's drawings come to life. Who provided the tools? Who provided transportation of the materials? Do we get the point? This is from the old world. 2,000 random fake characters didn't make this palace. If anyone has any topics or places you are interested in that you'd like me to cover, just comment below and I'll take a look. I really enjoy reading all of your comments. I'm very thankful that we're able to build this community bigger and bigger every week. You guys keep me going. This is really, really fun. And we're just getting started. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And I look forward to sharing with you again very, very soon. See ya.
Don't trust what you see. Don't listen to your senses.